Good evening, everyone. Candy here of Candy's Hair Candy. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new or first time visiting, welcome. If you are a new subscriber or a return visitor, double welcome. And thank you so much for your support for your girl. I am coming to you guys on tonight late. I'm tired, but you know your girl was here for Iyanla Fix My Life. I had to work today for a few hours, but I said, I gotta see part two of this Raised by Monsters. I gotta see what ends up happening. So, yeah, I sat up and I watched it, and I'm here to give you guys my raw, uncut, unadulterated comments, review, commentary, perspective on the whole scenario. So, this episode of Iyanla's Fix My Life was titled Raised by Monsters Part 2. This is Season 6, Episode 9. In this series, in this series, Iyanla has invited 5 siblings back to face the woman who abandoned them to be tortured in the foster care system. And I do apologize, guys, because it is late for me. I'm on the East Coast and it's almost 11 p.m. So I took notes, and I usually do take notes whenever I watch these reality shows because your girl is almost 45 and I'll be forgetting. So bear with me. All right, y'all. So I'm going to just break this down and let y'all know what my perspective was on it and see what y'all's thoughts are. So please feel free to jump down in the comments and let me know what you thought, what you got out of the episode. And basically, let's dialogue. Let's talk about it. Can we do that? Cool. So in the beginning, the siblings start off um, seated at the dining room table that Iyanla had prepared for them last week in the house. She brings them all to the table to discuss their experience with their mother, what their expectations are, or their lack thereof. Basically, she just wants to kind of prepare them for Miss Rita coming into this piece of the healing process, okay? So they're all kind of dialoguing about whatever. Iyanla then leaves to go meet with Miss Rita, the mother, but before she goes, she asks the siblings to write down what it is that they would like to say to their mother and be prepared to share it with her when she arrives back with her to the house. Iyanla then goes to meet with Miss Rita. Um, she asks her to take her back to the 16-year-old girl who had baby Shalimar. Remember, y'all, Shalimar was the oldest of the siblings, the one who was the only one raised by Miss Rita's mother, the grandmother. Remember last week the other siblings were feeling some type of way about that because they were, excuse me, they were all kind of separated and shifted around into the foster care system, whereas Shalimar, the oldest, she was kept with the biological mother of Rita. Okay? So, in talking with Miss Rita, Iyanla asked her, take me back to that time. Tell me a little bit more about this young lady. And Miss Rita shares with us that at 16, she was kind of fast. She also explained that she spent most of her time being raised with her grandmother. And boom, Iyanla automatically pinpoints, wait a minute, boo, why was that? And she says, well, because my mom was always, she had a way with men. And she's like, well, what do you mean by that? And she shares with her, well, her men always came before us. Interesting, because that's the very thing that her children are accusing her of and claim to be the reason why they're in the situation that they're in or were in as children. Okay. She shared that one or more of her mother's male friends would try to fill her up, come on to her, and, just basically inappropriately touch her and fondle her as a young child. And when she decided to speak up about it, she was accused of lying and basically put out. So, being that nothing was done, it was allowed to continue. And rather than remain in that circumstance, she decided to run away. And I guess in between her running away, she would go back and forth to her grandmother's house, which is who she was raised with. I'm so sorry, y'all. I'm yawning because I am very sleepy. I got a 7-day work week this week, but I'm still trying to get my YouTube channel up and going. So I appreciate y'all for bearing with me because the show was deep. Although I must say it was not as good as I thought it was going to be, considering how the first episode reeled us all in by our heartstrings. I expected much more from this part two, and I was a little disappointed. But that's nevertheless, I digress. Getting back on track. Um, Iyanla then meets next after that brief meeting with Miss Rita. She then decides that she needs to meet with Kadeem. Remember, Kadeem is the 28-year-old twin brother of Kadera, and he's the one who initially reached out to the show because he felt like his family was out of control and that they needed to get some help. She decides that she needs to have this meeting with him because it is brought to her attention that as recent as 2 weeks ago, apparently a violent brawl ensued between him and his twin. It kind of appeared like he may have been maybe in between places or part-time living with Kadera. Whatever the case may have been, she said that she needed to get that under wraps before bringing the mother into the situation because there's clearly some type of hatred or animosity going on between those two. And you already know that's kind of uncommon for twins because they're usually so close. Their bond is usually unbreakable. So that was kind of weird. But anyway, she meets with him and she asks him to explain the issues that have occurred between him and his twin, Kadara, within the last couple of weeks. He kind of glazes over the fact that, she was out of town. He was at her house. She called needing a ride from the airport. He doesn't have a ride or transportation. He tells her to take a Uber, and she kind of gets an attitude. And, he was like, her car was there in the garage, but she didn't leave the key. So whatever. 10 minutes later or so, she arrives at the house and she's yelling outside. She's going off on him. And they kind of got into it and they had an argument. And he said that she's always trying to make him feel worthless and useless. And Iyanla's like, well, wait a minute. Okay, I hear what you're saying, but I want you to look at something with me. So she pulls her laptop out. Iyanla be coming with them secret receipts, right? So she pulls her laptop out, and boy, she dropped a bomb. She pulls up the video that I guess Miss Kadara or somebody, it looked like it was Kadara, recording on her cell phone at the time of the incident. And he is standing up at the top of the stairs in her crib, yelling, calling her all kind of bitchs, and throwing all kind of personal property down the stairs, done punched holes in the girl's wall, done knocked down the mailbox in the yard, just all kind of craziness. And she turns it off and she asks him, what is that about? What is that about? And he immediately starts you could just see him turning red. He was embarrassed. And he tried to explain it away as that was after the fact. you're only seeing it from one side, which is her perspective. And she tries to get him to see that he is basically projecting his rage from his abused childhood onto his twin because they are the closest, or they were the closest at the time. And she also expresses that, you got to get this in order, beloved. This is not acceptable behavior. He shares that she is constantly trying to make him feel shameful and worthless. Um, Iyanla next brings in Kadara to address the breakdown because there's a clear breakdown between these two twins. And it's so unfortunate because twins, like I said, I have twin niece and nephew. They're really my cousin's children, but me and my cousin is so much like brother and sister that the kids call me auntie because I'm older and I've raised them. And it's just amazing. I've had friend twins, and just in raising them, twins are usually like this. Their bond is usually unbreakable, so it was unfortunate to see the dynamic that was going on between um, these two on the episode. But Iyama brings them in to address their breakdown, and Kadira has expressed that, he's always physically violent with me. He's putting his hands on me on a regular basis. They even showed pictures where it looked like he had pulled out patches of hair, and it was just crazy that they have a domestic violence infused brother sister relationship. It was almost like a domestic violence boyfriend and girlfriend couple, and I feel kind of uncomfortable saying that because the fact that they are brother and sister, and because of the fact that they were forced to do all that incestuous, inappropriate stuff when they were kids. I feel like it spilled over into their adulthood. So I really hope and pray that they can get some real help. And Iyanla recognizes this, and she brings them together so that they can kind of try to talk it out and just talk, because she asks them when she brings them together, have you all ever talked about the situation that occurred when you guys were little, or the things that you all were forced to do? Have you all have ever had a conversation with one another about what took place as children? And both of them stated no. And she shared with them that this was a necessary step that needed to happen in order for them to be able to move forward and for them to heal. She takes them off camera to a safe place so that they can talk and be free amongst themselves and be able to free themselves of the burden of shame and guilt that has plagued them for so many years. At the end of that conversation, they come back on camera and they appear to be in a better space. They hug it out, they're holding hands, they seem like they're definitely ready to move forward in the next step of the process, which is, facing the mother, Miss Rita. Iyanla then brings in Rita to the table with all of her children. Turns out that this is the first time that Miss Rita has ever been in a room seated at the table with all of her children. When Miss Iyanla asked her how it felt, she said it felt good, but she just wished it wasn't under such bad circumstances. Everyone was just sitting there kind of with this lost look on their face, except for William. William was looking very hurt. I can't say except for, but William in particular looked very hurt, but very angry at the same time. He looked like he was not with the BS. He was not finna give her a pass. And my take on it was he looked so much like his mama. And I think with him being the oldest son, I feel like initially he probably did have that close bond with his mother. You know, the bond that mamas have with their sons, is tight. And so the fact that she abandoned them to drugs and to the streets, I know he's feeling some type of way. So I know it's probably really hard for him to open up his heart to be able to let her back in because of all the hurt and anguish that he's gone through over, the situation in the past. But nevertheless, she sits down at the table with all of them, and it turns out, ooh, I think I'm skipping over something, y'all. Hold up real quick. Let me look at my little notes real quick. Okay, it turns out that Miss Rita was also molested. She shares with the siblings that she was also molested by one of her mother's men's. Oh no, I'm tripping, y'all. Forgive me, forgive me. Like I said, I'm tired. Please give me a pass. Not Rita, the oldest daughter, Miss Shalimar. We learned last week that she also was molested while she was in the care of the grandmother, but she shares at the table with Miss Rita. I'm mixing it all up. She shares at the table with Miss Rita, the mother, that she was also molested by one of the mothers, which would be her grandmother, but Miss Rita's mother. So it was like a pathology, the generational curse. And I would even go as far to say, I'm wondering if this is the same person, because I just can't believe that all the mama's men have been this way. But I don't know. They didn't go into detail or specifics on who the individual was. Shalimar did mention that you know who one of the people is, so it kind of sounded like it happened with more than one. But nevertheless, she shared that she was molested by one of her grandmother's men. She shared that when she told, she was accused of lying and told to get out. Sounds very familiar, right? Basically the same thing that happened with Miss Rita. Um, William then shares a story just out of the blue. He decides to open up and share the story about being in the basement. He recalls a time when when a man that he simply referred to as he would come down to molest me and beat me. And I just felt like, whoa, because remember last week, William had a hard time even voicing his abuse. He had a hard time putting it to words. So for him, it was like he needed to say that to his mom face to face. He needed to get that off his chest, and he needed to put that out there into the atmosphere. He said not only that, he could recall the first time, or one of the first times, that they were all lined up in the basement. And he said that the man, he lined them all up, and he told him to go kiss Kadera. And William was like, no. He basically tried to refuse, but he was ordered. We got to remember, these were children. He was ordered to go and kiss her. He said Kadar began to cry. I know he had to feel bad as an older brother having to do that sick ass stuff to his younger sister. And with his other younger siblings, brothers, being present and watching. The whole act in itself is so humiliating and demeaning. It is just sick. It's sick to me that someone can do that to children. I'm just saying, y'all. Sorry, I got in my feelings. But he then says that he then made them perform oral sex on each other. Iyanla then intervenes to ask Kadar what happened next. And it was so sad because with no emotion whatsoever, Kadar responded, we were able to eat. real food. That's just crazy. So this sick pervert who was supposed to be a foster parent to these children, providing shelter and love and a nurturing environment, was getting off on making these children who are siblings perform inappropriate sexual incestuous acts on one another and denying them and depriving them of food if they would not cooperate. I really kind of feel like somebody needs to really look into this a little further. And that person needs to actually be locked up. But I digress. Again, it's just, y'all forgive me. Moving on, okay. Kadeem stated that she was basically a sex slave from the age of 5 to 13 years old. They then start to have an exercise at the table. Miss Iyanla has placed some cards on the table kind of for them to kind of do this little exercise. William starts off by sharing that he basically tried to keep hope alive for his mother. You know, he tried to remain in contact with her over the years, and he just said it with such a vindictive look on his face because he said there was times I would reach out to you and I could tell you was still getting high. And she immediately went into a defensive mechanism and she started arguing with him about how she wasn't getting high, this, that, and the third. And, you know, it was just a trip. It was a trip. Michael describes, you know, getting beat with a skillet. And he said all because he was hungry and he asked about eating. He said this is really the cause of his epilepsy. You know, just the numerous beatings that he suffered over the years. Then, in the midst of him recollecting his thoughts, he starts to suffer another episode, like he did last week, y'all. It was like his eyes began to cross and roll into the back of his head. He couldn't speak. He was like twitching, you know, like you know, he was reminiscing, being hit. It was very sad to watch it unfold. So much so, it was like he wasn't responding to them calling him. Um, he got up, and as he got up to step away, the staff medics and everybody went to attend to him and just monitor him because with his medical condition, it's serious. It's serious, and you can't take it lightly. So they began to go do that in the next room. Iyanla and the mother go in there, and they kind of talk briefly. And he just shared, you know, you need to be about your word. It's just the little things, you know, Christmases, birthdays. If you say you're gonna be there, be there. I guess he has a little boy, and like Iyanla told him, you know, you gotta let all that go. All that is killing you, and in order for you to be there for your son, you got to let all that go. She then moves places with him, with the mother, Rita, you know, because Iyanla was sitting closest to him. And she basically tells him, go over to your son and console him. And he places his head in his mom's bosom, and they just kind of cry and they hug it out. And, you know, they kind of talk, and she just basically pleads with him that if she's allowed another chance, you know, she will do the right thing and she will be there. They then go back to the table and they join the other siblings and they kind of bring it to a close from there. You know, she basically pleads her case and asks to get another chance. Iyanla tells her that she's going to help assist her with, you know, different skill sets to become a strong, empowered mother to these adult children of hers because at the end of the day, she doesn't know how to be a mother. She's never had to do that. So it basically comes to a close from there, and the show ends, y'all. And I mean, although I'm hopeful, I don't know. I guess I expected more with how heated part one was. But that was my take, y'all. That was my commentary, and that was my review. Let me know down in the comments what y'all thought. Was it all that you expected? Do you think more could have been done? Do you think anything was left out? Do you feel as though William was wrong in being standoffish? Because I know at one point Iyanla asked him to come sit over by his mom, and he was like, "No, I'm not ready for that, not right now." So, what was y'all's thoughts? Drop down in the comments and let me know what you think. Again, I'm not going to try to keep y'all. I got to get me some rest, y'all. I got to get up and go to work again tomorrow. But let me know what your thoughts and comments are. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I will holler at y'all later. All right. Bye.